Hey guys, and welcome to Should You Buy It, where all we do is talk a little bit about the game and tell you whether or not we think it's worth the cost. In this episode, we'll be diving into Abyssus, a fast-paced FPS roguelike game where you suit up in a diving suit and blast through corrupted sunken ruins, create insane builds, and survive chaotic procedurally generated levels. Now, the first question that we always cover in these videos is what stage of development is the game in? And in this case, in Abyssus, it is currently in full release and available on PC for $25. But what exactly is the game? Well, Abyssus is an FPS roguelike that plays heavily into the weapons and their unique mods. It has extremely fast-paced combat that creates the feeling of panic as you can't stop moving or else you are going to get hit by one of the 15 different projectiles currently coming at you.
I got clapped.
If you've ever played games like Hades or Gunfire Reborn, then you're going to feel right at home with the combat. Where Abyssus really starts to stand out is in its well-crafted weapons, builds, account progression, and addictive unlock systems. Let's start out though by talking about some of the weapon options, as the game not only has 8 unique weapons, but each one comes with different primary and secondary mods available for it that make up a total of 45 different mods. One of our favorite weapons in particular was the Tesla gun, as the secondary we used sent out a pulsing ball of electricity that, when upgraded, absolutely decimates everything in sight. We also liked the combat bow, as it excelled in single target damage and was really good for taking down bosses. There are also 5 different character abilities to choose from, such as a turret that will shoot at your enemies, or an anchor that will do massive AoE damage in front of you. Now, after you choose your loadout and enter a run, you will begin making your way through the levels. As you progress, you will collect charms that grant you buffs, elemental upgrades for your weapons and abilities, gold to purchase things like HP and upgrades, and soul shards that buff your account permanently. Currently in the game, there are 4 main zones that you will have to progress through each time you start a run. Each one of those zones has some puzzles and locked doors for you to explore, as well as a mini-boss and a main boss for you to fight. The bosses in this game were honestly pretty enjoyable and impressive visually. It's not just going to be simply shooting and dodging occasionally, as some of the bosses have full-fledged mechanics that will require you to learn by failing at them first. For an example, one boss might send out waves that could knock you off the map, while another boss might send you to a new area that will have you do some parkouring through a unique room in order to destroy a crystal before it explodes. Something that really makes these runs and boss encounters so enjoyable is the fact that there are so many different builds for you to play. One of the ways you can customize your build is through an elemental buff that you can put on your primary, secondary, and character abilities throughout your run. These elemental buffs will also come with their own unique effects. For an example, the fire element will place a dot on enemies and eventually explode, while another might cause ghosts to spawn that will deal damage after you fill up a bar. One of our personal favorites caused tentacles to spawn and throw random objects at your enemies, which just isn't something that we've really seen in another game. Best of all is that these are just a few of the different elements that you can unlock and customize your build with as you play throughout the game. Speaking of unlocking things, let's take a moment and talk a bit about Abyssus's progression systems. You will start out with only the engine rifle and grenade, and will then have to unlock the remaining weapons and mods as you play the game. The way you unlock these is mainly by completing specific tasks, such as defeating a mini-boss, completing a run fast enough, or in some cases by solving puzzles. When it comes to the mods though, they tend to get a bit more specific with their challenges. For an example, you might have one that has you go out and do a very specific task, such as having a chain lightning effect hit a specific number of enemies at one time. Aside from your weapons, you will also use soul shards collected in your runs to upgrade your soul wheel. The The Soul Wheel provides permanent upgrades that give you things like more healing fountains, boosted stats, and the ability to revive once on death. There are a whole bunch of other buffs you can get and bonuses from the Soul Wheel, but we're not going to go into detail here. Now, once you are able to defeat the final boss, you will be blessed with a brine canister. These are used to fill your deep water tank and increase the difficulty of your future runs. As you fill the tank, enemies will start getting enhanced with different augments, and you will start getting debuffs such as increased shop prices. The endgame currently is just going to be filling up your deep water tank in order to unlock harder difficulties, as well as coming up with the most godly builds you can think of so that you can see how fast you're able to complete the game. Alrighty, now let's move over to the pros and cons section of the video. First up for the pros is the environment and setting. You really do feel like you've just been thrown into a sunken temple, and the visuals of the levels, enemies, weapons, and bosses help to immerse you into that world. There's just something about the whole brine punk vibe that just seems to really resonate with us. Next is the build variety. Abyssus offers multiple different weapon loadouts as well as buffs that you can acquire during each run. So each time you queue up, it feels different even if you choose the same weapon to start out with. The fact that the mods add even more variety to the weapons just makes it feel like you really have an endless amount of possibilities when it comes to how you want to actually play the game. Finally, for the pros is the progression, and more specifically, the weapon unlocks, as we found this to be something that made us constantly wanting to play the game. Each weapon will require you to unlock different mods as well that you can use with it, and having to change your build specifically to unlock these mods feels fun, refreshing, and rewarding. Now for the cons. First up is the lack of endgame content. Depending on how good you are at FPS games, you will most likely defeat the final boss for the very first time after about 8 to 10 runs. Your main way to progress in the endgame is your Soul Wheel, and you will max this out within 1 to 2 hours of defeating the final boss for the very first time. After this, the only use for your soul fragments is simply to re-roll the different buffs and abilities that you can get mid-run. This means that you are mainly playing to defeat the final boss over and over so that you can increase the difficulty. Unfortunately, this just doesn't make for the most enjoyable endgame, but thankfully the devs have released a post-launch roadmap, and it shows on there that they're planning to address this issue. Next up is the fact that there is no way to have multiple save files, and therefore no way to play with your friends in a balanced environment. There's also a queue system in the game, and if you queue up as a noob, you will be paired with maxed players sometime who will absolutely stomp through each and every level, and if you're maxed trying to queue for harder runs, you'll get paired with noobs who are just starting out. Playing with friends who started late in the game can also ruin the experience for them, as you'll be crushing everything in sight while they're doing little more than giving the enemies a tickle. Overall, this just makes finding balanced lobbies nearly impossible whether you're playing online or you're playing with friends. And finally is the replayability. Now, it's not uncommon for roguelikes to have you go down the same path every single run, but Abyssus really does make you go down the same exact path every single run. You will always fight the same bosses, in the same order, with the same enemy types appearing on each level. The only time a run is different is when you pick between the 3 different mini-bosses right before the final boss. This makes the game become stale very quickly, as you will mainly be on autopilot once you've learned the layout of the early stages. Alrighty, now it's time for the rating for the game. And when we rate games, we want to get 1 hour of enjoyment out of every $1 that the game costs. So for this game in particular, in Abyssus, we would want to get 25 hours of enjoyment out of the $25 cost of the game. And after playing this game and completing pretty much everything meaningful there is to do, we give it 6 out of 10 potatoes. Abyssus is honestly a pretty good game if you're into roguelikes, that is, but where Abyssus starts to fall short is in its replayability value and endgame content. Thankfully, its Sunken Temple atmosphere and weapon variety provide enough meat on the bones for us to feel eager to start the next run each and every time, again, unless we're all the way at endgame. So if this is your first roguelike, there are honestly probably just some better options out there for the same price. But there's just something about this game that is still super fun to play. And for that reason, we feel that Abyssus is probably worth the cost. Before you guys go, I do want to give you a quick thank you for watching the video. Like it if you liked it, dislike if you didn't, and share if you've got some friends that might be interested. Thank you all so much for watching once again. I'm Game Advisor, and I'll see you in the next one.